Hello and welcome. For China Solved, I'm Andrew Hubert, and this is the China Negotiator. Kicking off a new series, So You're a Strategic Competitor, America's Evolving Trade Position, and You. Part 1, Styles. The takeaway for this talk. The United States is evolving a national trade policy that is highly competitive. The U.S. as a business culture is moving from win-win collaboration to zero-sum game competition. Individual actors, and this means you can opt to either leverage the competitive strategy that the United States is following in general, or distinguish yourself with a more collaborative strategy. So this is part 1. Today we're just going to be dealing with the universe of conflict. And I use the Kilman-Thomas conflict style instrument, which you've probably seen, and it sees the world of conflict in terms of two questions. How much do you prioritize your own agenda in this negotiation, and how much do you prioritize your counterparty's agenda? And that's going to yield a very simple chart. On the left, the y-axis is how much you care about your own agenda. At the top is a lot, and the bottom a little. And across the x-axis on the bottom, how much do you care about the other side's agenda? And if you care only about your own agenda, you don't care about the other side at all, you are competitive. You want to win. This is zero-sum game or win-lose negotiating. 99 to 1 split in your favor is just fine. You don't see anything wrong with that. And your power comes from the fact that you are indifferent to your counterparty. You will stand up and walk away if that's the best deal. If you care about your own agenda, but you also care about your counterpart's agenda, you are collaborative. And here you are looking for a partner in some way, shape, or form, even if you don't call it that officially. You have a synergistic orientation. You believe that 2 plus 2 can equal 5, that the whole can be worth more than the sum of the parts. So a 50-50 split is your goal because your growth is not going to come at the expense of your counterpart. Your growth is going to come with your counterpart at the expense of other people in the market. You are an avoider if you don't want to take part in this negotiation at all. You like the status quo. And anytime you're negotiating with an avoider, you may have to negotiate twice, once to get him to the table and then to get him to sign a deal. And sometimes you'll be an accommodator where you care more about their agenda than you care about your agenda. And you need a deal at any cost. You have a weak position, or the cost of the item or service you're negotiating is insignificant to you. And finally, there's compromise. Compromise is a great place to end up, but it's not a good place to begin. Because if you begin as a compromiser, you're going to end up accommodating or in conflict. So let's apply this to the U.S.-China trade relationship. And remember, we're talking about national policy. This is not necessarily your individual strategy. So let's start by looking at 2005. 2005 is the old days in U.S.-China trade relations. And if you went to China, if you're an American, you went to China in 2005, you were expected to come home with a deal. The big variable would be how much control you had, 60% or 70%, and who would be making all the decisions and holding all the key positions. The Chinese side of this trade was collaborative by nature, but also more accommodating than they were comfortable with because China in those days was negotiating from a weak position. It lacked technology, it lacked capital, and it lacked markets. And the United States negotiator supplied all of those things. So the Chinese side was more accommodating than it would have preferred to have been. Let's fast forward to 2020, the emerging trade relationship. And the United States has shifted to a much more competitive orientation because in the old days, we were competing about who was the captain of the boat. You or the Chinese partner. In this new negotiation, you are competing about whether or not you're going to set foot on the boat. You have not decided you're in this boat together. And you might hold off on this decision and walk away from this negotiation because you don't want to be on this boat. The Chinese side has shifted as well. China is more confident, it's richer, and it's got more options. So China is taking on the role that the United States used to take. It is negotiating with counterparts as though a partnership is almost preordained, and now all we're discussing is who sets the terms. So negotiating style leads to tactics, which the other side sees as behaviors. So what kind of behaviors is this change in style touching off? Well, the United States is now on this competitive avoiding axis on the far left. Conflict is going to be normal for us. Walking away is going to be normal. And we're going to improve our position by having as many potential counterparties as possible. So we'll be doing a lot of divide and conquer techniques. The collaborative competitive axis that China is now occupying, the question here is who's the boss? Who's the captain? We're all in the same boat, but now we're just deciding who makes the big decisions. The behavior here is going to be to dig in and then defend positions. You improve your position in this sort of negotiation by maneuvering for power within the partnership. That's what you're seeing with China right now as it moves around Europe, promoting its BRI, or Belt Road Initiative. Final word, we are entering an age of strategic competition. The chance of conflict, of competitive tactics, and incomplete deals is much higher than it's been in the past. The new business will not be better or worse necessarily than old school globalism, but it will be different, and you are going to be required to change up your approach and change your standard operating procedure when you are negotiating across borders. Thanks very much for trying to solve. I'm Andrew Hubert. Please like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, or just like and leave a comment on LinkedIn. For further reading on this subject, take a look at my book, Fragile Bridge, Managing Conflict in Chinese Business. Thanks again. I will talk to you soon.